Yeah, that's your name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass, and I see these deer moving, and I'm like, ooh, there's deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the ghost, and
275
what's
pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
yeah,
You know,
he's like,
he's up there slapping, pissing all over everything.
is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize.
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors. The food plot. So let's, Brother Dallas, let's talk a little bit about some of the progress we're making over at the farm. So how are you feeling? We took a little walk the other day. What day was that? That Monday afternoon, we took a little walk together and took a peek at where the deer are hanging. Took a peek at some of the stuff we've been working on over the last year now, I guess. We really started hacking away. So what's your thoughts on some of the progress and some of the things we're working on?
It's a little overwhelming. There's so much to do. It's a big property and there's a lot of work that needs to get done.
Hey, Dallas.
So, yeah.
You're like super quiet. I can't.
Oh. Is this better?
That's better. I almost wonder if your microphone's still coming over the computer. It doesn't make any sense. This is just like the biggest pain in the ass. But, yeah. So, I agree. It does. It seems like, I don't know how you and I were talking the other day, I don't know how when you've got a huge block of timber, 100 acres of hardwoods, like where do you even start and what do you even work on? I know you can talk for hours about plans and drawings and focusing on this area and that area, but when you actually walk into the woods, there's so much to look at and so much to think about. And if you've only got, an hour here, an hour there, it's a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, and inside the woods, you almost have to, we've tried to cut down like a few trees here and there or small sections inside the woods, and you don't realize how many trees are in there and how much shade there is until you start with your chainsaw. And, you can work for hours and cut down a handful of trees, and then you come back in the spring and the canopy's all back over it again to the point where it's not even letting any sunlight in again. So you almost end up better off just doing what we're doing, just kind of those outer areas that don't have that big timber in it, where we've got the apple trees and the buckbrush and the honeysuckle and stuff like that, just trying to attack those areas,
Yep. So one of the things I want to talk about is, one of the big things we're focused on is trying to create more bedding and try to create more cover, to kind of have those attractive areas for the entire season for the deer, not just that, food plots are great, but if you don't have the conditions, we lived through that this year. We did not have the right conditions for the food we had planted, and we just never really got that wicked cold weather at the end of gun season, so we never really got to experience that. So we're, one of the things we're actively working on the family piece of property is we're trying to make it so it's more enticing for the deer to stay closer to our property and closer to the food, so we have more opportunity to hunt them in the daylight hours. It's great to get pictures, but when most of them are after dark, you got to start kind of working inside out to try to give them a reason to be there,
Well, this was a messed up year too, because we didn't even have mature bucks around that we wanted to target. So it's not like the year before when we had some bucks that we were going after. So it was kind of twofold in the fact that you're looking to possibly attract deer from another property. When that happens, usually late, and you get that cold weather like it is out now.
Yeah.
You get that cold and snow, deer will find that food source. If you have a good food plot, they'll come to it. But you have to have conditions right to make it. As opposed to where if you have a mature buck that's already living or spending a lot of time on the property, then you may not need that extra to get them there. They might just come out the other day.
We're gonna have to do something about your audio. It's awful.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Do you want to do you have your phone near you? If you just want to,
Yeah,
just try leave the video on and let's just mute you on there and see if you just call through the call line, if that works. Because anybody who's actually trying to sit here and listen to this, it's pretty awful. All right, so bear with us, everybody. Sorry about that. We've been trying to, I don't know, Dallas has got some computer issues. We're going to continue to blame it on him. But I see some questions here. Is Uncle Dallas going to grind some gears? I think we'll have to grind some gears tonight. And Tim Dunnigan, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. As far as the honeysuckle goes, honeysuckle and buckthorn, both in particular, we are trying to get rid of them. One thing I'm going to talk with Dallas about when we get him back on here is, I've been posting pictures and getting feedback from people, and many people say, you got to spray it, you got to kill it. We've kind of hemmed and hawed about what to do, and I think what Dallas and I talked about the other day is that we're going to try to, depending on the situation, depending on the spot, that honeysuckle and that buckthorn, they do give the opportunity for some cover, and pretty quickly give you some opportunity for some cover. So, I think we might try to keep some of it around in certain spots to utilize it for some of that side cover and horizontal, maybe hinge cut some of that stuff. Well, Dallas and I will talk about that in a minute, but getting rid of it wholeheartedly, that's a massive undertaking. All right. You there?
Yeah.
That's night and day, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always something with me.
It is. We love you either way, though. The people love you.
I try.
I know.
So, that's what we were talking about. Like, every invasive bush, especially the buckthorn is what's really taken over. We have some honeysuckle, but it's not too bad. But the buckbrush just takes over a property, but you have to almost look at every one of those trees that you cut down. You have to, if it's like we were talking yesterday, we're trying to clear apple trees. So if we're cutting them down around apple trees, it'd be great to just go in there and spray them and kill them and not have them come back. But like if we're looking to improve bedding, where the stuff is creating cover, it gets tall enough where it's not good cover anymore. So cut it down, throw it in a pile, and then let the stuff sprout back up, and then it'll come in even thicker and heavier. So it can be, Ben talks about it a lot, where the buckbrush can be really good cover, but it's got to be in a place where you want it to be covered.
Yeah, and I know you're listening to Teeter's podcast. I think he's maybe 4 weeks in. His episode this week. So Ben Williams is one of the only people that I talk to that isn't like got to get the sprayer out and kill that buckthorn immediately. That's not his prescription all the time. So Ben's like the only person in my circle that has been giving us that feedback. But then John, the guy that John had on his podcast this week, I think he's from out in Wisconsin, I believe. Shippy.
It's deceiving because his name is Empire, so I assumed he was from New York.
So did I, yeah. But you listen to that discussion.
Yeah.
So he was talking about he talked about buckthorn, and I was listening to it Tuesday afternoon when I was out cutting, and I'm like cutting buckthorn, and then he's like talking about buckthorn, and it's like this is the greatest thing listening to habitat discussions while you're out physically working on habitat. But he was talking about buckthorn and using it because it is such a robust bush, tree, whatever you want to call it, that you can hinge cut that, and it's a great tree to hinge cut, and you can create vertical and side cover and let stuff grow up through it. and it can create a great side barrier. So I was thinking about, you know, some of this stuff that you and I walked on just on the west side, but we could do it in a lot of areas. A lot of that buckthorn finds itself on the edges, and where we have just like, we have tons of ash that's just standing dead. And if you cut that stuff down right now, it's like, it's going to be years before there's any cover back in there once leaf off. You know, once leaves are on during the spring and summer, everything looks great. But the second the stuff starts dropping, there's just nothing in there. You know, there's just no cover for the deer to disappear. So, you know, I was in there walking yesterday afternoon where I was cutting in the front of the bushes there, and the deer are right over by that row of 4 apple trees that I opened up last year. There's a little pocket just to the east of that of some honeysuckle and buckthorn, and the deer there's just hogged out beds where the deer are just living in there right now. And it was cool to see that. And I'm sure if we walked all around the property, we'd find similar, but they like that. It's a very dense, heavy area where they can get out of the weather. And, you know, it made me kind of second think going in there and cutting all of it down completely and trying to kill it, because it's immediate cover right here and now.
Yeah, if it's just good cover and it's not hurting anything, then leave it. Why bother, you know? Mm-hmm. Just a lot of ours, kind of the approach we've been taking is that we've got all these apple trees everywhere on the property, and if we just let everything keep going, they're all going to be dead in a few years, you know? So we're trying to save the apple trees, but we're finding out that the biggest enemy of the apples is the buckbrush, so the buckthorn. So we're always, that just seems to be the thing that it's kind of like the lowest hanging fruit right now. We're trying to attack that, and it helps with the cover as well. So
yep.
You know, you mentioned too, this is why I like winter scouting, is you get that snow and you get to go out and see where the deer are really hanging. And sometimes where they're hanging just has to do with where the food is, because, you know, right now with the weather we had, the deer are just desperate to stay alive, right? But they're still going to bed in the best areas, the most secure places they can in the vicinity of food. And they'll go farther away if they need to, but I think you can find, you know, if you find what you did where it's like, oh, look at that, here's a really good bedding spot that's right near food. Well, they're probably going to use that all year round.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really easy to learn what's going on when you got the snow like this, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. We're just actually seeing the results of some of the work we did last year. And that's what I was saying was, you know, you're not going to go crashing through all that stuff in November to see where the deer are bedded.
No. You're
going to go in there in January and February when there's snow on the ground, and it's easy to tell what they're doing, you know.
Yeah, it's one of the big reasons why, you know, I'm fallen in love for this, you know, actively getting out and working on the property. I've fallen in love with that. Just the whole process is addicting. But then, you know, getting out, like, you know, we're doing Shed Fest, and I think a lot of people are discouraged by the snow depth, and they're not even thinking about going out and looking for sheds. But like, this is, if you have any time, if you've got a half an hour that you can go to your hunting grounds and just go for a walk, you know, you may find a shed. You know, it might be unlikely, but you're still, like, you're going to see those deer trails. And turn your tracker on your Onyx or base maps or whatever you're using, turn your tracker on and just walk deer trails, because a lot of those trails, we know where they are right now. We know those are historical trails. That's where the deer, you know, often are heavily traveling during all times of the year around the farm. So it's a great opportunity to get out there and kind of plot your property and see what's going on and where. I mean, it's invaluable. I mean, I think just in the month of January, I probably got out 6 times, maybe 6 or 7 times to get out. And I was thinking about it today before you and I were going to have this discussion. At the end of the day, we're going to have 4 or 5 times, if not more, is amount of times out physically working in the woods and on the property than we are actually going to be hunting. You know, so like right now, it is the time. Like, there's not a lot going on. If you can sneak out and you can get out in the woods and do some of this stuff, you're gonna benefit from getting out there and seeing what's going on your property.
Yeah, it's. Other than the fact, I mean, we're lucky we got snowmobiles, because you wouldn't be able to do anything without that. You pretty much have to ride right up to where you want to work, but it is a great time to be out there.
Yep. Yeah, and deer love snowmobile trails. We've packed down trails purposefully from all of the main areas we know, and they just are running them like just highways to the, standing corn and in that. We're kind of moving kind of somewhat away from the tree side of it, but I see Ben is on here. If you want to call in, I'd like to kind of run quickly through the whole. I know you did a presentation last week, about working on some stuff and doing habitat work. If you want to call in and talk to us quick about apple tree pruning, because I think it is just such a vital thing to be doing right now. And you gave me some good pointers to remind me. So if you're still on and you want to call in, feel free to call in. While we're waiting to see if he does jingle. So is there anything? So you and I just met. We just talked. Did you end up finding that property corner, when you were riding the sled?
No.
All right. Ben's on. We're gonna get Ben in here. Hey, Ben.
Am I live?
You're live. Don't say anything about anybody that you wouldn't want them to hear it, especially the Dunnigans.
Well, yeah. So your question was on pruning?
Yeah, let's just run quick 10,000 foot. Right now we were talking about pruning apple trees, and you and I had the opportunity to spend a couple hours together last Friday going to the show there in Syracuse. So I got to chew your ear a little bit, but it's always good to get a refresher on some of the just basics on apple tree pruning. I think it's important to cover that. So you want a quick hammer on those, some of the kind of the steps?
Yeah, sure. So obviously number one is identify the tree. If it's something that you've identified during season, and then being able to capitalize on that now, which like you guys are doing. And if not, and if you're looking to identify this coming spring, I carry a roll of ribbon with me when I'm turkey hunting, actually. And actually, I'll be looking for flowering trees during that time of the year. Maybe something I missed. Also, it lets you get a good barometer on some of the trees that you might have released to see how they're budding out and how they're doing with bouncing back from being released. But biggest thing first is identify, and then cut an existing competition. And like we talked about in the car ride over and stuff, I don't do any major pruning other than deadwood. Deadwood can come out anytime. I don't cut any, many major pruning cuts till at least year 2 or year 3. Big thing is getting grapevines out, buckthorn, and a lot of that stuff, like you were saying, is just overwhelmed and growing right up through it. I would not pull it out. I actually have a video up on my YouTube channel of it where I literally in real time clean out around a whole apple tree and then walk right up to it and show that I didn't pull a red dogwood that was growing up through it. I didn't pull all the grapevines out of it. And just because of that, you're going to break down a lot of branches this time of the year when they're brittle and stuff like that. So you do a lot more harm than good. So I think that was my 2-minute soapbox there.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And that was, it's the stuff that I think is good to talk about, especially when you're going to go out there and do it, because, we were working in those apple trees on Monday, Dallas, and, it's a lot of times it's a 2-man job, especially if you're working with buckthorn. And, it was good to have those reminders from you, Ben, about trying to be, safe. And it's not an awful thing just to cut the stuff and then just let it hang there in the tree, even if it's not, fully down out of there. You kind of inherently, you want to get everything out of the tree, but it's not necessarily something you have to do, and you might do more harm than good by doing that. So that section there, Dallas, I was working in yesterday that you and I were in Monday, there was a lot of, big grapevines growing too up into those trees. So, just cutting those off as low as I could to the ground and getting them out of the way. But is there anything else, Ben, you thinking it's just important stuff to talk about this time of year?
Yeah, so with the grapevine and stuff like that, that's another good point, is I like cutting them low, like you said, at snow level, or, usually this time of the year it's at snow level. Right. And then I like to cut them up a little bit higher too. That way it doesn't give a new vine, this coming year's growing, as good of a chance to jump back up in that canopy. Okay. Making it have a nice, segment of separation, so to speak, so you don't get a jumper, maybe even from a buckthorn that you cut next to it. It's amazing what those grapevines will put on in a year or two. So that's just something that I do too, is, cut that, and be careful if you are cutting something like like a Virginia creeper or something like that might be going up the trunk of the tree, just be careful with your saw that you don't nick or damage any of the cambium layer on the actual apple tree itself too when you're trimming vines on it. And be careful if it's poison ivy, because sawdust is a great way to get it in your eyes and your face and all sorts of fun stuff. So just be mindful of that too.
Good point. Safety's no accident. And where you're hearing protection, I had somebody tell me the other day, make sure you know where your exit route is and make sure you're wearing your muffs. So I'm always wearing muffs, and I'm pretty good about looking for an exit route. But it is funny how you can get, I mean, I am not by any means, I've really only been running the saw a lot the last 2 years. And you've got to kind of keep yourself reminded to be, be careful. You can kind of get kind of cowboyish pretty quick once you're doing it. You're like, well, you're not really thinking. And especially when you're working on some of that, like buckthorn and that stuff is nasty. It gets loaded up, and it can be dangerous. So those habitat hooks are awesome to take pressure off. And if you got somebody working with you to pull the stuff out of the way, it's great. Can you quick explain what I've had several people message me about the picture I posted with cutting buckthorn about basil cutting. Can you explain what that is? I mean, I know I could Google it, but it's something I'm an audible learner, Ben.
So when I commented on it and said cut it lower.
Yeah.
Okay, so usually to get the best response from a tree species, the higher up you cut it, basically that's kind of the highest point that the tree is going to grow from. So I do it a lot of times. I actually talked about it in a similar habitat video I did last winter where I cut the top out of a young maple tree just so that was a permanent scrape branch on that tree. But to get the best results when you're flush cutting something like that, knee level or lower, like you said, you guys are working in like 2 foot of snow, so I figured that was pretty high. It looked like in the photo. Yeah. You'll just get a better response for the resprout. And the other reason I like cutting it, if you can cut it shin high or so, is if you do decide to go back through there and treat it with like a herbicide, it's a lot safer to spray something that's at knee level than to spray something that's up at shoulder level. When it gets regrowth on it, if you are spraying the green foliage to kill it. That's the other reason why I like to cut them low. And they'll sprout back pretty good, and I actually have seen a fair amount of deer browse on regenerating buckthorn from stump sprouts.
Now, what I was referring to was the people, I don't know if I'm saying it right, basil, B-A-S-A-L. Some people refer to that. Is that not cutting it through all the way? Is that what basil cutting it is? Or am I?
I'm not familiar with what they mean by basil cut.
Yeah, I've had several people message me. I'll have to research that. I'm sure that I'm going to sound like an idiot not knowing what that is, but yeah, I guess I am kind of an idiot. Look at me.
I don't know if that meant that you're not putting a face cut in it, and just cutting it flat across the back, a flat back cut with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a logger either.
No.
So it might be more of a forestry logger term that I'm not familiar with right off, but yeah, definitely the other thing with buckthorn too is wear rubber gloves. Yeah, don't wear rubber gloves, leather gloves. If you're working with buckthorn, I had a coworker have a real bad infection in his hand that got a buckthorn thorn jammed up in it when we were cutting brush.
Oh boy, I got a couple on my wrist right now.
Infection and stuff like that. So
noted.
But yeah.
All right. Anything else you got for us, Ben?
No, I'm just enjoying the conversation and getting ready for the snow we're supposed to get.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're going to be a plowing some bitch the next 24 hours, I think. You should be in bed right now.
Yeah, well, it's easier to keep going if you don't go to bed, I guess.
Something like that. You're young yet. You'll learn.
But yeah.
All right,
guys. Well, thanks for having me. If you need anything else, give me a holler.
Yeah, I'll holler at you. We appreciate you, buddy.
Sounds good, man. See ya.
See
ya. I watched one of Ben's videos. I don't know if it was one of his recent ones or an old one, but he had a tip about he brings a sled out in the snow and puts all his gear in there. But then he mentioned that he brings an extra saw in case he gets one stuck. And I'm thinking I might need 3 saws because I could probably get 2 stuck on the same tree.
Yeah.
I actually, one time last year, I was working by myself, and I had to go back to the barn and get your saw and bring it out to cut my. I mean,
yeah,
just especially that freaking buckthorn. Sometimes it's only 2 inches thick, and it'll just kick back on you. Like you start cutting, it seems like you're doing it the right way, and it'll just pinch down on you, and it's like you're there hanging on the shit trying to get it free. It's like it doesn't look like it should be that difficult, but that stuff just the way everything just entangles with each other. It's. You mentioned poison ivy too. I never had poison ivy my whole life, and now I've got it the last 2 summers. I got it like end of July the last 2 years, and I don't even know how. I'm not even. I mean, the only times that I had been in the woods at that time was just to check a camera or two, but they were in locations where they always were, and I don't know. Just 2 year summer of 20, I got it bad. Messed me up for
I
like
remember
2
that.
weeks.
Yeah, that was bad. It was all up your arms, right?
Yeah, my arms were just terrible. And last year I got it. It started coming in the same places, but it kind of it didn't spread as far and as fast. So I don't know if I'm just fighting off the infection better with some immunity to it or something. But
antibodies,
But I was to think that I might have had like some sort of immunity to it, because some people say they're not allergic to it. And I just thought, with all the time I've spent in the woods my whole life, how I could have never gotten poison ivy, but I got it.
Yeah, congratulations. You're the winner.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling about it seems like they've really poured onto the corn and the brassicas over the last week or so. They've really started pounding those food plots. And
They're hungry. Corn is king. I always say corn is king, right?
Corn
That's
is
why
king.
Planter.
Yep. And we're
this times right now.
Yep. And you dropped like 3 or 4 big hickory trees. Was that a soft maple to open up and give us some more acreage there to put corn in next year. So that'll be awesome, because I think more corn up front there will definitely help continue to move that stuff forward. I'm kind of thinking that a bunch of these bucks have dropped their horns, because we haven't really gotten much of anything for horns. There was that one buck there the other day. There was a half rack in the back, the island trail. And that looked like a decent one, but I don't think that was one of the big bucks.
No, that's that 6-pointer that just showed up a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay, that's which deer that is.
He lost one side, and we had a buck today that I think it was a younger buck, but he clearly had just dropped his horns. I think it was this evening or this morning. I can't remember which, but we had one that had obviously just dropped them. So, yeah, they're starting to drop. I mean, today actually with the rain, I bet you it would have been a really good day to drive around on a snowmobile and shed hunt, because that top layer would have been kind of melted, and I think the rain would illuminate them too. Like, could have actually been a good day to try it. But you know me, I can't find sheds anyways. So, but I do think this could be a good year for shed hunting because of all the concentrated deer activity.
Yeah.
Now that we've been involved during this last month with all the snow, we have a pretty good idea where the deer have been.
Yeah.
I mean, those 4 deer, you can see them from the road. I saw them tonight. I went over to Grandma's, and I was driving back just before dark. And there's like one little spot from the road where you can look down to that bottom plot.
Yep.
And you can just 4 of them stay. I can actually see the camera there now. If you slow down and look, you can see the camera facing this way, and there was like 2 or 3 deer behind the camera.
Yep.
There's some bushes in that food plot. I got to think that some of them deer are just bedding right down in the middle of that food plot during the day. I mean, they just hammer in that.
Did you see Trigger sneak down there the other day?
Yeah, Saturday.
No, that was Monday afternoon.
Oh, okay.
You and I were leaving after working, and here he is pulling out of there. I'm leaving to go get Billy and Kate from daycare, and Brian. I'm like, there's a white Dodge Ram pulling out of the cabin driveway, and here comes Brian backing out of there, and so I followed him all the way to daycare, but he's down there looking for sheds, and you and I are up hustling in the woods working. What's wrong with this picture?
Work smart, not hard, right?
Yeah, I guess so. He's letting us do all the grunt work during the winter, which is all right, but he'll get his time someday. Let's see. Anything else I want to talk about? Anything else you want to talk about from the habitat and work we're doing?
I don't know. I mean, I'm laying plans for food plots. Got to figure out a way to get ourselves a no-till drill this year, at least one time, if not twice. I'd like to rent or borrow one somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you can rent them from the county, so I'm thinking that's, if nothing else, that's what we're going to do. I've been just top seeding everything other than the corn and soybeans. I've been just broadcasting everything, and it works, but it's a lot of work, and you got to do it just right to get good germination, and it just would be so much more effective having a drill.
Yeah, no doubt. So hopefully we can drag something, or not necessarily drag. Hopefully we can find one and figure that out, because that would be really nice. I'm thinking I've been awful about scheduling and putting some of this stuff together to have planned out podcasts and guests. So I'm really, that's something I'm committed. I got to work on getting things on the calendar. But I want to do another one of those habitat discussions with Ben and John. I think that would be beneficial on all fronts, and be cool doing it on here where people have the ability to call in if they wanted to talk to them. So I want to plan that, a couple weeks out. So Ben, if you're still listening, which I see you in the chat board there, you are, I'll be in touch with you and John if we can try to get something scheduled for some week, maybe middle of this month, and do a live discussion. I know the one we did last year turned a lot into, we were aiming to talk about winter habitat stuff, but it ended up being a lot of spring and summer work, which was actually good. And I think it's maybe a better, because most people, not everybody has the interest in doing what we're doing with getting out and cutting timber and working in the winter. So more people tend to like to get out, I think, and get out and work in the spring and summer with their food plots. So we'll probably aim to do something like that in a couple of weeks. So that's a thought there. Kind of switching gears a little bit. There's a new podcast I stumbled across, actually because of the citizens against the wind turbines in Lake Erie. I've kind of connected with a whole bunch of new people and different groups of people. And one of the individuals that Jim Hanley actually recommended was Rich Davenport, as somebody to talk to, who's very knowledgeable in that stuff. And I like somehow stumbled across, Rich's page, and Rich has a podcast, and he's been doing it for a little over a year. And by the looks of it anyway, from what I can see on Spotify, and I listened to the first episode, bless you, first episode I listened to, which he posted this past weekend. His show is awesome, Dallas. You got to check. It's called We Love Outdoors is the name of the podcast. You can get it on Spotify or any of the other podcast apps.
I'm taking my music off Spotify.
Oh, you are? Well,
yeah.
So where are we going to go? Well, no, you shouldn't take your music off Spotify. This is an opportunity for you to put more of your music onto Spotify. What's that hit song you have? I'll show you the big one. Is that song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was more of a rap.
More of a rap song, yeah. Yeah, the genre. But you kind of hit all different types of interest levels there. Yeah, so this We Love Outdoors podcast, if you're a Western New Yorker, I mean, not even Western New Yorker, if you're a New Yorker or somebody who's even just interested in the outdoors and what's going on, his podcast is everything that I wish I could do with this podcast, is what I visualize. But he's like very organized. He has a lot of data, a lot of information, seems like a very intelligent guy. And he covers, everything from outdoor news, things that you would see as headlines in the news, as it pertains to outdoors, and then everything, and also politics and events and things that are coming up. It kind of has like a 3-segment feel to it. So I've been messaging with him. I'm going to try to get him on the show. He's a fascinating guy, and he's very outspoken about a lot of the stuff with the wind turbines. And, he's one of the kind of lead people there as far as data and information goes. And so I'm all about people like that. And I would love it if people listen to this podcast. I think if you like what we're doing, and a majority of the people that are listening are from New York and the Northeast, I'd recommend you check his podcast out. We Love Outdoors. It's a free plug for him, but it's a great show. And I don't know how many people he has listening, but I think there's a lot of people that should be listening to that. Very informative program. So That's my challenge for you, Dallas. So something for you to start listening to.
Always love a new outdoor podcast recommendation
Yep.
or YouTube. So that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So that podcast, the wind turbine podcast, like dramatic, how many downloads I got on that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, crazy. So I'll be interested to see if anybody sticks around for anything else. I'm probably not listening to this discussion, but that was a juicy one, and we've never really had anything about a specific topic like that, and had some great downloads. So that was pretty cool. Yet to have any negative feedback on it. I've been interested to see if I get anybody to reach out to me and say, you're full of it, or you don't know anything, or you're anti-science, or whatever the opinions could be there. I have gotten none of that. So it's very interesting. The more I look into this stuff, Dallas, there's not a whole lot of people that are really willing to stand up and make their argument about why any of these decisions are good. Like nobody's in favor of it. It's wild. Like you start looking at some of these things, it's a bit outrageous.
Well, look at, Kathy Hochul is going to have to run for re-election soon, so she's going to be able to say that she's pushing a new green energy initiatives, even if they're not going to go anywhere. She's going to be able to she's going to be able to say, campaign on the fact that she's pushing all this new green energy, even if she knows deep down that it's never going to happen, she can even stand there and say, oh, look at these people got in my way, or we're still working on it, or whatever. It's just it looks to me like it's just more of a show, a political show, than anything. I mean, they're not going to be able to do that without environmental studies that are going to just probably get it shut right down. But
yeah,
it's a political talking point, I think. It's what it sounds to me.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, and I think there's a lot of really intelligent people and organizations for different, representing different different groups of people. Just looking at what I do for a living with pupil transportation, our state organization here in New York is, pretty opposed to the mandates. They're not opposed to introducing some of the new technology with electric vehicles, but it doesn't make sense to mandate this, because not every place and everywhere this is going to be a good solution, and you should allow the free market to drive it, not that. So it was interesting seeing their take on that and their testimony, and I think that goes for all these things. I think if you give people the opportunity to make their own decision, most people are going to make the best decision for their situation and what they can do and what they can make of it. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. But listening to a show like that Rich has got, that We Love Outdoors, you're gonna get yourself a pretty good education on this stuff. And he's opinionated, but his opinions are backed by information, and he shares that there. And couple organizations that I'd like to. So one that's on my radar to start paying more attention to is the New York Conservation Council. They don't really they don't have a big name. I don't think a lot of people know about them, but I was listening, sounds like Rich is on their board, or he's a member, or pretty involved one way or the other with them. And seems like they're pretty engaged in a lot of this stuff, at the state level, with a lot of these different recommendations and any of the initiatives that are going on. They're pretty engaged. So they're one I kind of want to pay a little more attention to, just to see exactly what they're up to. And I'm not sure how they operate, if they have memberships or things like that. But there's a new kind of non-for-profit org out there called Howl for Wildlife. I heard that, heard a podcast, the Kafaru Cast had them on to talk about. It's brand spanking new. They've been kind of working on getting up and started since last year, when the whole bear ban deal in California started, kind of the rumbles of that. And that's when they kind of started they saw an opportunity for an organization that was just kind of unique, and not, only about land, or not only about, turkeys or deer or this or that. It's like, this organization, they need an organization for protecting hunting and the rights and the way of life that we know and love and enjoy and understand is important to the North American model of conservation. So I would encourage you to go listen to that podcast. I've reached out to them. That's another one that's on my radar to try to get them on here. But what they're doing is they're just monitoring every state in the union for bills and legislation that's trying to be passed. And they're just basically, you go on their website, I think it's howlforwildlife.org. Go on their website and you can actually, you just sign up. You just sign up for an email. You don't have to donate anything. You don't have to become a member, and you'll get emails sent to you when there's initiatives that need attention, and they have pre-written messages, saying, and it will go directly to whoever the individuals are within that state that need to get that email. So it's like incredibly simple. You go to their website, you create an account, and then you just basically just go there to the website and you see, it'll show you what items are up and what items you have not spoken on yet. And you just easily just click on them. There's a canned message. You hit send, it's over. And you've signed those, kind of quote unquote petitions or, given your feedback. And that is an awesome idea because it's hard to keep track of all this stuff. Like, how do you know all these different things that are going on? So that's a super cool, unique organization that I think is great for hunters. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I know the NDA does some of that too. I'm not sure about the pre-signed letters, but you do need organizations looking out for you and just giving you a heads up about what's going on out there, even if it doesn't affect you directly. It's obviously it's important if it's happening in New York State or wherever you live, but the bear ban thing and the trail camera things, in those other states it's pretty important to know that those things are going on, even if they don't directly affect us, because it sets a precedent down the road where it's nice to be aware that things like that could happen to you. You don't think that bear hunting is ever, not that it's a big deal to us, black bear hunting, but you wouldn't think that that'd ever be a thing that people would take away. And then you learn that it's happening. Actually, New Jersey's right next door, so It's not close to, but it's close by. So it's good to have awareness, things being brought to your attention that you should know about, even if they don't directly affect you.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It sets a precedent. I think that's something that, as you get older and you start to learn the way the legal system works, once there's something that happens in another state or in a court somewhere, then there's a precedent that they can base a decision off of, and there's ground for that, So I think it's, it is a death by 1,000 cuts. And the older I get and the more I learn and the more I understand the way the world turns, some of these things you can't give an inch because there isn't an inch to give. And, trapping, as long as everything is being managed by the state game agencies and they believe that this is a necessary means of controlling a population, and those needs ebb and flow as the populations change. We all understand that. We participate in that process. And, we just can't see, you have a trapping ban or, like right now there's a deal up for Colorado for banning what is this one about? It's about mountain lions. Let's see here. That one is mountain lion, lynx and bobcat hunting in Colorado, banning that. And this is the same state that they just had a ballot initiative to reintroduce wolves. I've been seeing videos, and my buddy Rob Herman that lives out there, he's been posting stuff in his story of ranchers that are already dealing with issues of cattle getting killed in Colorado from wolves in north central Colorado. So there's a population there, and they've already gotten rid of a spring bear season, and now they're overrun with bears. So the logic there, we all know this as hunters. This doesn't make sense that you want to start banning this stuff, but this is what the anti-crowd wants to do. They want to start canceling some of this stuff. And hey, we'll go after, predator hunting because it's not as popular as white-tailed deer, and we'll sneak in that way. So you just got to be on your toes, and doing something like this by going to a website like howlforwildlife.org, you create an account. It's free. You can donate if you want. I'm going to donate a little bit here and there just to help pay for the effort that they're putting in. But it's simple, it's easy, and you can vote about it. Like right now they have the petition up there, and their goal is 11,000 emails sent for the Colorado ban, and right now it's at just under 10,000. You can see how many there's at there. So it's cool. You know, you can get engaged and your voice does count, and a lot of us hunt out of state, and you got to protect that and stand up for your fellow hunters in those places. So that's my soapbox on that topic there. We've had a request for grinding gears, and we're closing in on an hour. I was thinking we'd keep it around an hour. So what's grinding your gears, Dallas? We haven't had you on to grind gears in a couple weeks, so I'm sure there's a couple things that might be chirping them.
Well, there's nothing eating at me currently, but I'm sure we could come up with a couple if we want to just throw a couple out there.
How about like Jimmy Garoppolo? Do you have any gears that are ground from him, or do you still think he's a second coming of Brady Jesus?
I never thought he was the second Tom Brady. I'll tell you what, he threw that interception. It wasn't his fault really, but the interception to end the NFC Championship game, I just turned it tired and I go, that was his last pass for the team. He's done.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yep. I just never been impressed by Jimmy G. He doesn't have that killer instinct in his eye, you know. Not like Josh Allen when he comes onto the sideline and it looks like he could freaking run through a wall. That's my guy. That's the guy I want under center. And that's how Brady, that's how Brady is. That's how Rodgers is. All these guys that are long-term, and Mahomes, obviously, Mahomes is a fiery leader. Like, he is out there. His guys rally around him. They always know they have a chance. And, Jimmy G just don't have it. He's soft. Kid's soft. Come on, there's got to be something, Dallas. We got to get. I need
right.
Your blood pressure to rise a little bit.
All right, let's do some more lighter type of grind your gears. Okay, so
okay.
Let's just let's name off a few of the things, a lot of the common myths that you hear from hunters, or things that hunters say that are stupid. Okay, you want to know something that really grinds my gears?
Yeah.
It's when a guy shoots a yearling buck and says, well, I had to shoot him because if I didn't shoot him, the neighbor was going to shoot him. Or I was just trying to fill my freezer, feed my family. Well, maybe you were, but probably not.
No, probably not.
You know what else grinds my gears? So a guy hangs his tree stand and he says he's 18 or 25 feet in the air, or maybe even 30, but really he's 14. Buy a tape measure.
How would you use a tape measure to measure the height of your tree stand? Would you put a rock on the end, or?
I've done it.
Yeah.
Because I want to know how high I'm getting with my mobile setups.
So when you're telling people on the Facebook forums how high you are, you're actually like legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took a tape measure in 2020. I used a couple of my different setups. I wanted to know, because I used lone wolf sticks, and then I used the 20-inch Hawk Heliums, and then I had an 8er on that I was trying out. I didn't really like that, but I wanted to know how high I was getting in different setups, and a lot of times you're only getting 14 feet. Now, first of all, to me, I'm measuring to the platform.
Right.
So some people think 18 feet means where their bow is going to be or whatever. And I don't know, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe that's the way you're supposed to measure it. But to me, it's my platform height is what I want to know.
Do you measure it from the root, Dallas, or from where do you?
I got up there, I just dropped the tape down until it hit the ground, and I looked and it said, okay, it's around 14 feet, or some of my setups are 16 or 17 feet. But
yeah,
it cracks me up when people are always saying that all their tree stands are like 20 or 22 or 25. It's like, if you ever been in a tree stand that's over 20 feet off the ground, it's up there.
Yeah. I was having that discussion when I was at the show last week. Those buck huts to the platform are 8 feet. And there were some guys there that the Dunnigans were laughing after the fact because they had box blind. They got their banks blinds and the Grizzlies there, and these guys are like, oh, can we put them up? Can we elevate them? They're like, yeah. They're like, oh, we want to put them like 20, 25 feet up in the air. And it's like, do you realize how high that is to put like a big box blind, put anything, but 20 feet is a long ways up. And yeah, I don't know about all that. Here's what grinds my gears. This is a good one, Dallas. You'll like this. So what grinds my gears is that you work really hard for your money, right? And you go out and you buy, like, let's just say something like a buck hut. And then you expect somebody to, like, assemble it for you for free, you know, just because that you're family and they love you. And then you just, you know, you would expect that they would, like, install it properly, right, and secure it to the ground. It really grinds my gears when I go to walk out to hunt a spot and my almost $1,000 investment is flipped upside down in the bushes and it's smashed in on the one side. And they're like, yeah, well, the ground was a little hard and I didn't bring a sledgehammer. So that was like 6.5 months ago and I didn't even think about coming back. And I'm not going to, like, point fingers of who did that, but I think we all can, like, sense who the individual was that may or may not have pounded those stakes in.
No, I'm not going to point any fingers. I'm just going to say that if you want a job done right, sometimes you just got to do it yourself.
Fair enough. Yep. Problem is, my nickname's Slick, and I'm really not that handy. My best value to you is my pocket. That's about it. So, and yeah. I do love to run a chainsaw and hinge cut a bunch of stuff. So I am known as a hinge.
You're a good talker.
I talk a lot. And so I'm curious your perception of me. Am I a hard worker when you see me out there freaking going after those buckthorn bushes? Am I impressing you at all, or are you kind of like, man, look at this freaking guy with his Carhartts on? And
yeah, you're one of those guys that always looks good on the job. You always got the right equipment.
That's right.
You show up to go on a muzzleloader hunt, and you got $800. No, if you between your boots and your slick gear and your backpack and your gun, you're probably carrying around $2,000 worth of. I mean, if this was like the old Wild West days, they'd shoot you and steal your boots, son. I mean,
what happened to him? Did you see what he was wearing? I know. Yeah.
They'd take your boots and all your gear, and you'd be nothing left of you out there.
Yep.
But you got your chainsaw, your helmet, everything always looks right. You're looking good.
I don't know what that is. I'm kind of proud of it. You know, I work hard at that.
I know.
You know,
I know.
I wish I was better looking, because then it would actually pay to have all those things and do all that stuff. But, you know,
those selfies would get you more likes if you were better looking.
I know. There's things I could do, you know, with doctor's help that I could change that, but it's not worth the investment. I'd rather spend that money on a new pack or, you know, a fancy pair of boots or something, you know.
Yeah. Well, sorry, you opened the door on that one.
No, I've actually been wanting. I just, you know, I'm kind of a self-deprecating type of guy. I wanted somebody to say those things about me. It feels good, you know. I'll sleep good tonight. But see, it's funny because I feel like now I'm going to try to defend myself. Okay, so you invest a whole bunch of money at certain points in your life on stuff, and then, like, your kids become the priority at some point, and then you can't have nice things for a while. So I'm like in that point in my life where I'm stockpiling because I'm anticipating that, like, things are going to get tough, you know. There's going to be some grinding going on, if you know what I'm saying. But I don't know. Yeah. I'll probably just keep buying the latest and greatest that comes out, and I'll be that guy. I don't know.
I wish we wore the same size gear because I could buy it all secondhand off you.
Yeah, AJ is living the dream. Yeah. Like, he has got the kid's got a pile of my old stuff, and I know I gave some to Danny Jeffrey. He's got some of my old gear. It does pay to be a gangly, big bird looking sumbitch. You can get free clothes. So
yeah. I saw you talking about getting rid of your Sika gear. I'm like, oh man, I wish that shit fit me.
Yeah. Yeah, John made out pretty good. Let's see what there was a funny comment Eric made, but then he never responded, and I'm not going to read his comment because I don't know what he said. Eric, I asked you made a comment, said, has your wife been impressed by him? And I replied back, who is my wife impressed by? And Dallas is my wife's cousin, so I strongly hope that she's not impressed by him, because we'd have to have a discussion because Dallas is all mine, and I need her to freaking focus on what's important in front of us. But Jimmy G. Jimmy G. Ugh. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. I appreciate, Eric, your question. I was obviously down the wrong path. No, Sarah's not impressed by him. Sarah, she likes a man's man, somebody that can get out there and take care of business, and Jimmy G just ain't doing it.
I always say, though, when you're being harassed by Sarah about not being around more, or, because you're always with me and Brian, I always say, just tell her, Sarah, I'm doing this for you. I'm spending time with your family. Your family is important to me.
I have done that, and it doesn't. No.
Did it work?
No.
Oh.
No. I tried that early on in the relationship, especially when we had Billy first on. It was like, I'd be over there at the farm, and it'd be like, I'm just going to be like an hour. And then it's like 3.5, 4 hours later, and I'm 5 minutes away down the road. And it's because, like, we would do a little something, and then we would stand at the front rack of the four-wheeler and drink like 6 beers. That's what we used to do. And now we don't do that anymore. Now it's like, I got to rush. I got to go get the kids and go pick them up from daycare or whatever, But there just doesn't seem to be the time that there was before. But that's all going to come full circle, Dallas. Full circle.
Yeah. Well, I was getting in trouble off you posting pictures from our cutty back cameras. I got in trouble on one because we got and Molly was even there with us. We were cutting one day last winter, and we got done. Like, we busted our ass for like 2 hours plus, and at the end we cracked open a round of Busch lattes, and we happened to be standing in front of a cutty back that we just hung. So then it was sending pictures to our cell phones of us standing in front of the camera drinking beer.
Yep.
And posted it on one of the things, and Jen was like, I thought you were working today. I'm like, I was.
We were.
I saw a picture of you standing outside drinking beer. I said, well, do you think I really just went out in the middle of the woods in a fucking snowy February afternoon? It was like 12 degrees out, and just stood in front of a trail camera and drank beer.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't really sound that bad, but
no.
I mean, probably would have stayed in the barn if we were going to just drink beer.
Right. I know. Yep. It'll come full circle. It's tough with the young ones. There's not a whole lot you can do to strap them with you and take you. But I think back to when Jimbo and I were young with Dad, and once we got to age where we could ride our bikes around and, do stuff on our own, I could see Billy and Kate and Maya and Kenzie, all being right around the same age, and, Julia and Emma and the girls, like, they're, hopefully they're over there with us and enjoying and riding four-wheelers around and doing stuff while we can be over there doing our thing, So we're a few years away from that, but we're getting there.
Yeah, I got one that wants to do pretty much all that stuff with me, so that's cool. I took her down to the hunting Western New York, the scoring for the Rut Challenge. She went with me, and she's like, oh, that's the guy that sells the whitetail stuff, right? She's got a couple shirts and whatnot, and every time I get new stuff, she's like, I wanted, she's been saying she wanted a sweatshirt. So I said, bring your money. We'll go see if Russ has got anything. So I told Russ, I go, when you get a minute, if you got any gear, she wants to buy a sweatshirt and a hat from you. And so he sent one of his kids inside to get some gear, and he just gave her a hoodie and a hat, sweet hat too. He's got some really nice hats on sale, some new stuff. He had a rack down there. It was pretty cool. But he goes, here, I don't want any money. I just want her to have that. I think it's so cool that she's interested in this with us.
That's outstanding.
So, really nice of Russ, and I appreciated that. So did Emma. So that was Saturday. That was a pretty cool time. A lot of big Western.
There was big buck shot. I saw the pictures he posted, and god damn, I didn't see some of them throughout the season. There were some studs in some of those pictures.
Yeah, there was the 162-inch buck from Niagara County. I saw that one, and then Doug Beats brought one in from Attica, a 155-inch buck that he killed with the gun. So there was was pretty neat getting to see everybody and met some new guys, and I told her to come with me because I'm like, it's going to be pretty cool to be able to see all these big bucks that are going to come in,
Yeah.
That was cool.
So what did you, was yours, you and I were on the same team and I failed to produce anything. What were you getting yours scored for? Like one of the top archery bucks, or?
He wanted to score the top 6 archery and the top 6 gun. So he must give out prizes for individual categories besides the Rut Madness. So I ended up being the number 4 buck with archery.
Nice.
So,
congrats, man. That's awesome.
yeah.
Very cool.
That was so. What I didn't know is they were going to have one of the guys that was scoring the deer was Leon Hyman, who lives here in Strikersville, and he actually had the BNC score sheets with him, and he scored mine for the contest. And then he's like, "Do you want to put it in the book?" And I was like, I wasn't really planning on it. But then Emma was looking through the book with me, and she saw that I showed her my dad's name in the book, and then she saw the pictures. She saw how you get your picture in there when you enter a deer. And she's like, "Oh, well, you got to get your name in the book and send her a picture." Oh, here she comes. Come here. So, I get the main picture of that deer that I was distributing was with her in it. So she's like, "Oh, we got to do it." So yep. I'm gonna send the score in and the picture of me and her with the deer. So I never had my name in the book before. I don't even think I've had one that qualified really, and I do now, and I got it officially scored. So
yeah, that's awesome.
We'll go ahead and enter it. It'll be cool to do at least once.
Yeah, I mean, God, you shoot a buck like that, you need to do that for sure. When we were up at the show in Syracuse, the Northeast Big Buck Club had a booth, and they were scoring a bunch of deer. And my God, like there's some giants that have been shot here in New York and a lot in Ontario County. It was pretty incredible. And met a guy that actually is has a tracking dog and is licensed to blood trail. And got talking with him, and his property is like maybe like 3-4 miles as a crow flies from our camp. And he knows our area very, very well, and it was really cool talking to him. And he's, he lives in the area and drives these roads every single day, morning and night. And all the deer that he was telling me he had seen, and some of these deer that we had pictures of, that he had pictures of, or that he knew about. It's pretty cool, and it was wild to see, somebody who he's got pretty good inventory of what's going on in the area, and he's tracked a lot of deer for a lot of people. And it's nuts how far in some of those areas of bucks are going. Like he's got pictures of he was telling me a story about a picture of a deer that he had on his property that was shot like 5 miles to the maybe it's not quite 5, just probably a little under 5 miles to the east, like over like two big and like ridges, that run north and south there. So pretty wild that how far, some of these deer are going, but there are some giants out there. And it's like, just when you think, it's just when you think there's not that many big deer around, or you don't know, especially when you get down by our camp, it's like, you just have no idea when that one is going to come walking by. They just cover so much territory, especially during November, late October, November.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was talking to a couple of the guys on Saturday and was like, New York State, we have the genetics and the capability of having bucks that are, you can see it, these deer are coming in from all different parts of the states. There's a lot of 150, 60, 70 inch deer getting shot in New York every year. There was one out in the Adirondacks, of all places, the Adirondacks, that was over 200 inches, made national news this year. Was he 211 inches or something?
Yeah, that deer was crazy.
20-something points on him. So, you know what really grinds my gears, Billy?
What's that?
Is the fact that we live in a place that could be a real big buck hotspot, like almost Midwest rivaling, I would say. And a deer, it's almost impossible to get a deer over 3.5 years old, especially our neighborhood. I mean, how many deer are even in our neighborhood that are more than 3.5 years old?
Yeah, not many. And I was having this discussion with Teeter. It was awesome on Friday. Like, I got to hang out with both of our property guys. So Ben and I rode together, and then I got, John met up with me. He came to the show to go walk around and check things out. And he's pretty good friends with the Dunnigans as well at the Hunt Works. So he wanted to see them, but to get to chat with him. But we were talking about that, and he did. I think it was one of his first podcasts. He was talking about that the New York, there's so many different pockets, like different areas of the state where there are areas where some of these deer can get to age. And then you come out here to just knowing our 5-mile square block that, like, when you take a step back and think about it, there's probably in those prime times of the year with like the beginning of gun season and the heat of the rut, like there's probably 25 to 30 hunters hunting that one block when you really think about it. If you look at all those pieces of property and figure there's 2 or 3 guys that hunt this, 2 or 3 guys that hunt this, and then gun season comes and there's 5 or 6 or 7 guys hunting this, like you can easily get to 30, 40 hunters a square acre or a square mile.
Yeah.
It's realistic in some of these areas, and you can see it with the age class of the deer for sure. But there's something odd going. I mean, well, I guess we've always had that over the last 5-10 years with all the trail cam data. We've had a ton of yearling bucks. Like, I don't know. They're just not getting to age, I guess is what it comes down to. And we're not shooting bucks. Like, we really haven't shot bucks.
2 years in a row, we have not killed a buck on the farm. And I would say that before that, there's been at least one killed on the farm every year back to the 80s. I know since I've been hunting, there's always been at least 1 to 3 or 4 or 5 bucks every year. But, and I keep making this point too, as part of it is that our standards have changed so much, to the point where now I'm not even looking to target 3.5-year-old bucks. Even just a couple of years ago, I was thrilled to shoot a 3-year-old buck, and now I just keep wanting to move that up, but I'm finding it really difficult to go from 3.5 to 4.5. I'm not finding it like personally challenging. It's trying to identify one of those deer even exist and then have it to be one that spends a good portion of time on the property. And then on top of that, obviously all the neighbors are going to be targeting that same deer or couple of deer, right? Mm-hmm. So we know we're going to be this next year. We're all going to be competing over one buck, right? We know of one buck that's going to be a 4.5-year-old, not even a giant, but just a really nice deer that everybody's going to want to shoot. So the 5 of us and every damn buddy on the block is going to be trying to kill that same deer, right? Mm-hmm. They're all going to have trail cam footage of them. They're all going to be scouting, setting up on them. We just had this last year with split brow. Yeah. It's going to be the same story. And it's one deer.
It's one deer. Yeah.
And then when the deer's dead, because somebody's going to kill him.
Right.
When he's dead, it's going to be like, oh, what the fuck are you going to do now? I mean,
right.
2 years, when split brow got killed on opening day, I mean, me and Brian took our stands down and stormed out of the woods and fucking went and hunted somewhere else for the rest of the season. We're done.
Yeah.
It was 11 a.m. on opening day of gun season, November 20th. We're like, oh, it's done. What do you want to do now?
Yeah.
I mean, we went back to his shop and had a couple of lattes and sat there and looked at each other like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and this is a bigger discussion, but I think it's something that's good to think about because you have to have alternative spots. We are fortunate. Right. We have, I don't know how many acres total we have there, but that's a lot of acreage. I mean, most people don't even have more than 40 acres to hunt. And we've got what we have, and we know what we have. We have such a good idea of what deer are living on the property and in the neighboring blocks of woods. But when it comes down to it, if we aren't feeling like the deer that we want to hunt are there, we're going to go to these different, whether it be other pieces of property we can get permission to, or it's public land that we can go hunt and we can kind of scratch that itch. Like, I think that kind of comes back around to what we were talking about earlier. It's a great time of year to just get out, throw some snowshoes on, or just put your high boots on or some gaiters and just walk and go find sign in other places. Because, if once that one deer that you're hoping to get after, or a few does get shot off the property and there was only a couple, a group of 4, 5, 6 does hanging there, like, you don't want to shoot yourself out of future, future hunts. Like when you're hunting some of those smaller pieces of property that don't have massive movements of deer. And that's where it's so much different when you go down to our property in Naples. You have just these massive ranges. Those doe groups kind of hang there, but you've got these bucks that just have these gigantic ranges, especially during the rut. So, it's like at camp, it's like if we shoot 1 or 2 does, like it's like an unsaid thing. Like everybody knows, like we're kind of done here. Like we're not going to shoot any more does because we know we've got 3 or 4 doe groups hanging here, and we're just not going to wipe them off the planet. It's just not productive. So, yeah, things to think about for sure.
Yeah, I'm reading Ben's comment down there, and I mean, he's right to a point. Whereas you target the top deer on a property, and if not, whatever it is, it is. If it's a 4-year-old or if it's a 2-year-old, whatever the top. And that's the way I used to look at the farm was, well, we'll just try to kill whatever good deer is on there. But the problem is too, we have 5 of us that hunt that property, and so it seems like, hey, if you shoot the best deer on the farm, for me, I want it to be something that it really has to be something special to me because, everybody's standards are different, even that hunt there. So I'd rather have it, if the best deer on there is a 3-year-old and I shoot him, and that's not up to really my standards, but it's the best deer. But if Molly or even my dad at this point were to shoot them, they'd be thrilled with it. I'd rather have them shoot it. So to me, I have to move off somewhere else and try to figure something else out. So that's part of it too, is it's not just you hunting that 140-acre property and saying, okay, I'll just target the best deer that's on there. It's a family operation there. So we have to consider everyone else's hunt too. So it's the same thing with how we hunt, where we hunt. You can't just go crashing into your best spot every time and saying, well, I'm going to go for it. Today's the day. I'm going to get right in there and go after it, because you always have to consider that somebody else might want to hunt there tomorrow or the next day. So it's a little bit different situation for us, but I get his point about just saying the deer are what they are, and you just target the best one you can find.
Yeah.
To your point, we all have different places to hunt, and in good, but the other place that I primarily hunt is a far better property at this point. So I'm just going to go there.
Yeah.
And, last year I didn't even hunt the farm until opening day had gone. And then I think I did 4 sits on the place the whole year. It's kind of frustrating because of the time that I spend there. But the reason I keep spending more and more time is I'm trying to improve it. But it's just not an overnight thing. It's not even a 1-year thing. There's all this habitat work and food plot work that we're talking about. You can't just say, all right, this is the year I'm going to improve the property and the habitat, and all those mature bucks are going to move in. It's just way more to it than that.
Yeah.
And that's why I said earlier, it's can be overwhelming, because you're looking at, I think the property now is about 200 acres, and that sounds like a ton to people, and it is. I mean, it's a good chunk, but it's 2 sides of the road, and there's tillable and there's open area, so it's not all huntable by any means, but it's still a good sized property.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you try to break that, when you think of hunting 200 acres, it sounds fabulous, but when you try to think about how to work on a property of that size, all of a sudden it's a giant task, and you have to have a plan. You can't just, as we found, you can't just randomly pick at little projects or little things that you think of, like, oh, I'm going to go do some hinge cutting today, or I'm going to put in a food plot or whatever. You have to think of the whole thing together. Yeah. So it's just, and I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about it, because we're blessed to have what we have.
Oh yeah.
But you can't just, a lot of people, whatever you want to say, they just show up and hunt it every year, and then they want to bitch about how their hunting seems to be less effective every year. Well, because to have a place like that, you have to maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
You may get lucky for a lot of years. Maybe it got logged, or maybe you're just in the middle of a good neighborhood or a good piece of property for whatever reason. Like I said, the other place I hunt it's kind of open hardwoods, but it's got some terrain, and it just happens to be in a good area that the deer pass through, so you can sit there and just pick them off as they go through.
Mm-hmm.
Every property is different.
Yep.
You have to look at every single one of them. It's all these conversations we had. You know, that's why these guys that make a living on property management, that's why not everybody can do that sort of thing. You have to be able to go and look and break down a property and decide what you want to do with it to try to make it more effective.
Yeah.
I've been rambling here, but
no, it's all very well said, and I think that kind of brings it full circle back to where we started here tonight. You know, it's there's a lot to work on a piece of property, and it will never stop as long as we can keep that property in our family. It will be a never-ending. And now I'm seeing it. Like, I see what Dad and Uncle Mike do, and especially Uncle Mike. You know, Dad, once he's retired next year, he'll be way more engaged in that process because he's going to have time. But, you know, Uncle Mike, it is every Saturday, every Sunday that he is available. He is at camp most of the day cutting wood. And he's doing that, you know, to make money to pay for the property, but he's also doing that to just continuous improvement of the habitat. And over time, it takes a lot. It's a massive task. But you can see these little areas continuously improving. It's really fun, and it makes the hunt so much more enjoyable. If you own property or you have property that you lease or access to, and the people that own it don't mind if you actively engage with them to work the property, like, it is so rewarding to go out there and to work your ass off during the winter, and then for the warm up to come and blossom, trees starting to blossom, and you see all those apple trees that you hustled your ass off for, every square second you could squeeze, you were out there trying to make it better, and seeing those apple trees hanging with apples in the middle of the summer. It's like, hell yeah. We did that, it's just cool to see the improvement. So, getting engaged, asking questions, learning from very smart people that are out there. There's a million resources, and we love working with Ben and John, having them as guys to talk to, because they live and breathe this stuff, and they're local. They understand us here in New York. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are doing similar things, but those two guys have been awesome for us to have as resources. So, Whitetail Landscapes and Old Tin Cup are two that, we recommend everybody to check out, on social media, because they've got some great content. And, John just starting his podcast, the Maximize Your Hunt podcast, has been very valuable. Quick hitters, 25, 30-minute discussions, but there's some really good information in there that I'm excited to hear some of that stuff elaborated on. So I'm going to close this out, Dallas. It's been a great chat. We kind of not surprised that you and I had no plans, and you messaged me at 7:15 and said, "Are we doing something?" And I said, "If you want." And here we are an hour and a half later. Feel like that was a pretty good discussion. Some good things talked about, some good grinding of the gears and picking on me, which was nice. And I just want to give anytime. Yeah, you're welcome for the opportunity that is. I will plug Shedfest real quick. Encourage everybody to get involved with that. If you go over to our website, pertneroutdoors.com, or if you go to our social media page and click on our link in the bio, you can go right there and it's just click, and you'll be to the website, to the store, and to the shirt. So Shedfest this year, I want to just make sure I continue to clarify, it is not a contest. You could find no sheds and have the same opportunity to win some of the great prizes that have been donated. So Dallas, you do have an opportunity. Last year we had 120 people enter. This year my goal is 200. We're about 20% there. So, I should say at 15% there. We're making some good progress over the last week. But if the shirts should be in, Russ just finalized the back of the shirt with all the sponsors. You talked about him with Whitetail Company. He's helping us out with the design of the shirt and actually getting them ordered. So the physical shirt should be in, and now we've got everything finalized with the print. So they're going to be getting printed up. So I'm going to get those things shipping as soon as I get them in my hands, and they're badass. Like, he sent me the proofs, and I'll be posting up the pictures they're on the website, but I'll put them up on social too, to continue kind of putting it out there. But pretty cool shirt this year. I'm really excited about what he did with that design, and you'll see all the sponsors on the back. I don't want to forget any, and I don't have the list in front of me, but the top valued prize is a Kafaru backpack. of your choice. They were nice enough to give me a discount to put towards a pack, and I've got a little budget in mind of what I'd be willing to spend. So anybody who doesn't know what that is, which I'm finding that's fairly common in the whitetail world, some people have no clue what the hell a Kifaru pack is. It's a Western style frame pack, made in America, out in Colorado. Pretty bomb-proof, solid pack. It's the pack I use. Huge fan of the company and the product. So you can go over to kifaru.org, I believe is their website, and check out their gear. But that's the top prize. So if we get a couple hundred people in, you've got just as good of a chance of winning that or any of the other great prizes donated. And I would say for your money, to get a 1-year membership for the Deer Association and a cool t-shirt and a chance to win some badass prizes, I would say it's a pretty good investment. So head over to the website and get your shirt ordered, and as soon as they get in, I will be turning and burning. So that's it, Uncle Dallas. You got anything else to close her out?
No, I was just going to say, is it still $30 for the...
Yep, $30. If you are, so there is tax. I got to charge sales tax because I'm not paying tax because I have the resale certificate. Trying to be somewhat for profit here, not total net loss. But if you, I will say, if you are local, anybody around this neck of the woods, and even if you are just somebody out here in Western New York and you don't want to pay shipping, and you want to meet up to exchange the shirt, I did a lot of that last year. And, shipping is not cheap anymore. So if you want to do that, you can just pick local pickup and we can just coordinate that. And those of you listening know who you are, that we do that. Happy to link up and save you some money. So $30, and you're getting yourself a membership, which is a $30 value in itself, $35 value in itself.
It's more than worth the $30 just for the t-shirt and the NDA membership. And I mean, that's all I'm doing it for, because I'm not finding any sheds. So.
Yeah. Amen.
And Russ really does do a great job with his apparel. I mean, I'm almost to the point where I pretty much wear whitetail or pert near stuff everywhere I go now. So
yeah,
I got so much. So yeah.
And that's freaking awesome that he gave that hoodie to Emma too. That's so cool. So doesn't surprise me. He's a good dude. I continue to offer him money for the artwork that he's doing for us, but he just wants to help us out and see us be successful. So I appreciate him and encourage everybody to go check out, Whitetail Company. They're all over the place. Their website's fairly obvious, whitetailcompany.com. You can get some pretty cool clothes. And I think he's got the outdoor show coming up here in, I think it's like March 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, the 4 days there, first, second week of March. He'll have a big booth set up with his, whitetail, Western New York whitetail wall. In Dallas, you could put your buck up there if you wanted to. I don't know if he does Euro mounts, but anyway, he'll have a display and he'll have all kinds of stuff there. And I think I'll probably go up and try to help him for a couple days in the booth, just because of what he's done for us, help him out in return if he would like us there. So that's that. Cool. Yeah. All right, buddy. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate those of you that engage with us here tonight. And we will, shut up, Tim. Tim says I could have listened to 3 of John's podcasts for your one.
You should do that.
Yeah. You should do that, Tim. Tim's a habitual listener. I got to meet that whole family last week, and they're just great people. Great people. So it's good stuff. All right. That's enough. Peace out, everybody. Have a good night, and keep feeding them.
Feed them.